That's why I had to rush it.
There's room here, there's a lot of room for you to look at.
I like.
That's why. Yeah, I think you're right.
I knew you were coming.
We just able to make this safe for their life. Doing. Already seen it. No. Office now was a little bike trip down on Florida. So just the site. We did organize it. Yeah, they're flat. I never heard of them, but everybody. Yeah, you know, Steve Martin, that's why I noticed them. I work, got. Sure, yeah, I was like, I thought. That should be enough to get through. I just saw them. Yeah, wait for my wife to be prepared. Yeah, that was REI and they had to miss it. No, this is. It runs some, something like trail race. Shoes. Really wide, walks and hey, I'll get all punched up. Exactly, yeah, that's what I noticed too. Yeah, yeah, they were complicated. My face.
Yeah, another day is
Right, sure. You can go back and see. Ah, that looks promising. That looks promising. We got a slight technical glitch here, but I think
We're good
we
now.
solved it and give us a second.
I would make that big spoon so that people come.
This one here? Alright, perfect. Of course.
So are we recording?
We are.
Okay. 6 o'clock, perfect, it just turned 6, okay. All right, we have, 2 events tonight, we have a public hearing. And followed by a select board meeting. Immediately after the public hearing. The public hearing, we technically are required by law to do a public hearing on article. Sorry. The article regarding the proposed, mineral extraction moratorium, because that's a zoning ordinance. The rest of the articles we're not required to do a public hearing on, so. I just will kind of call it that, but it's really a public information question and answer session tonight, it's not a legal requirement. So I'm gonna run the public hearing on the proposed mineral extraction ordinance in a formal sense. So what I will do is I will ask anyone who's in favor of the ordinance to speak first, which is sort of a traditional way to run a hearing. Then speaking second would be anybody who's opposed to the ordinance. And then speaking third will be anybody who's neither for nor opposed, but has comments or questions. So with that said, I do want to take 1 second and introduce our new town administrator, Jen Hillgrove. Who she's working with Terry on a transition. Terry's still in the back. And have everybody welcome her. So she's had her hands full the last few days already. So some handouts up here. I don't know if everybody got the handouts. I'll make sure I know what you're referring to when I stop. So I'm gonna open the public hearing and ask that anybody who is a proponent for passing the mineral extraction moratorium ordinance to speak. Please raise your hand. It's Article 6 in the town meeting warrant. It's the whole ordinance is in the warrant itself. So let's, I'll take the first proponent's comments, or we will. Hearing none? No, okay. Nobody wants to speak? Okay,
Just wanted to say that I'm totally in favor of the ordinance. I'm Linda Garrett and my husband Ivan Garrett.
okay. Anybody else want to speak in favor? I don't know your name, sorry, could you introduce yourself?
You know, awesome, and I would say I'm in favor of it.
Okay, and you live in South
I
Holland?
live in South Austin.
Yeah.
Right off Watering Beach Road.
Okay, anybody else? Go ahead.
Debbie Childers, I'm in favor of the ordinance.
And you live in South Holland?
Holland.
Yeah,
I'm Mark Jones. I also am in favor of this ordinance. I live over on Snowdale Drive.
okay.
My name is Joe Erickson, I'm also in favor of the ordinance, thank you. I live
Okay.
on 379 Spruce Head,
Yeah.
about 1,200 feet from the forest,
Okay,
thank you.
you're welcome to expand your comments and say why you're in favor of this, but anyways, go ahead.
I'm Sandra Wallace, I live in South Thomaston. I'm not an abutter or real close neighbor of the quarry, but I'm very concerned that we don't have enough structure in our land use ordinances, as has been made very clear in the course of dealing with the quarry permits, that we just have no handle on various concerns. And I'm looking forward to working on an improvement to the land use ordinance to resolve that.
Okay, anybody else want to speak in?
I
Sal-
just wanna,
Sally?
Sally Merchant, I just wanna say I'm in favor of this moratorium.
Okay. And I see any in here?
Linda Palmer. I live on the corner of Home Court Avenue and Route 73. And I am in favor of the ordinance. There's been a lot of traffic.
Okay. Anybody else want to speak? Pro, in favor of the ordinance? Okay, I'll open it up to anybody who would like to speak. Was it in opposition to its passage?
I will speak to that.
Okay, that doesn't surprise me.
I am opposed to the ordinance. I am not opposed to future regulations of said industry. I am opposed to the moratorium solely based on its timing of me wanting to amend our performance standards for our quarry. It seems as though people get the idea that we're trying to produce more material, which we're just not, where we just have to adjust how we're operating based on the type of rock that we have. Yeah, that's basically it. You know, I think there's this general consensus that we're trying to expand this quarry into something greater. There's been complaints about us selling our material, which we've always sold material. We're just now selling some material that we produce ourselves, and we're not trying to be a full-time quarry. That's never been a goal or even something we've talked about. It's just trying to offset some of our costs. And once again, we're not trying to grow. With that, this is Pete Bennett from Main Drilling and Blasting. So somebody does have a question about some of our operations or some of the seismograph readings or something, we're willing to answer some questions. And we've also been working on a plan to offer to all of the residents that took the pre-blast survey. We're gonna do water tests and site evaluations every 6 months to those who accept that offer. To help monitor their grounds and make sure there are no issues.
Okay, and I should have had you introduce yourself.
Travis Wilson, right?
Thank you. Anybody else who would like to speak in opposition to this ordinance? Okay, anybody who would like to speak neither pro nor con, but has comments or I guess questions of the board, although if there are questions, I would ask that you direct them to us and we perhaps can refer them back to who we need to. So anybody wants to speak neither pro nor con?
Yes, Gil Erickson. At the last meeting we were at, when Mr. Wilson.
Wait a minute, can you tell us when you say the last meeting? I've been at 12 in the last.
When he was here with the application to have more blasting.
Are we talking about the last planning board meeting?
Yes.
Okay,
And the town attorney sat in on that meeting,
okay.
and she herself said that you don't have enough information to make a decision to vote. I'd like to know what information is needed and who's gonna gather that information, and do we get privy to hear that information?
So let me be clear. She said we don't have enough information to vote on the moratorium or to vote on, yeah, I know the answer, but I just want, or to vote on the amended application.
And that's when the subject of the moratorium was brought to a head
Okay,
at that meeting.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious if the town will speak that they don't have enough information to make a decision. I'd like to know what information is lacking so we can provide it.
I wasn't at that meeting. My understanding was that the planning board asked for more information. I could have that wrong. If there was Jeff, I believe you.
Yeah, I watched it afterwards. What the planning board asked was for the applicant to provide additional information so that they could make a reasonable decision. Right now, there was not enough information. And so that's been passed to the applicant. And then at the next planning board, the applicant can come in with the information.
Or not. So neither pro nor con?
I just wanted to speak to.
Yep.
His concern. I did attend that planning board meeting on Zoom. And they came up with a list of more information needed that would be in. Well, hopefully the minutes of the meeting, but also if you wanted to watch that part of the recording, they made a list of specific information wanted.
Okay, anybody else want to speak neither pro nor con to the ordinance? But we're not really, this is, I don't want to shut people off, but I don't want to get astray here. We're not here to reconduct a planning board meeting. We're here to focus on the ordinance, so. Is there anybody else who would like to comment neither for or against the proposed ordinance?
I would. The whole purpose of a moratorium is to give the town time to address any existing ordinances or create a new ordinance that can better answer some of the questions that have come up recently. As our attorney said, our ordinances do not cover mineral extraction or blasting in any great detail. And so there is going to have to be some work to flesh that out. Realistically, I think that could be accomplished. The select board has already turned that over to the ordinance review committee. And realistically, I think that could be accomplished within the 6 months. The problem is that means that if we have it done in 6 months, then the decision on the new ordinance would be made at a special town meeting as opposed to an annual regular town meeting. So this is me personally. I am going to suggest and recommend that the select board use its discretion, which they're allowed to do, to extend the moratorium for an additional 6 months so that we can make sure that we have a regular town meeting to make the decision on. And that way the ordinance review committee can target a 12-month plan to bring it together as opposed to a 6-month.
That's assuming, of course, it passes,
And
the
that's,
original moratorium
that's right.
passes at the town meeting.
and that's the other part of it too, is that the moratorium is not in effect until the town votes on it. Although there are clauses in the moratorium that makes it retroactive to the 22nd of May, I believe, for permit applications.
Other folks wishing to comment, either for or against?
I just have a procedural question. Will the vote be taken on June 17th by ballot?
That's up to the town meeting. Someone can stand up and make a motion that it be done by secret ballot, and that motion has to pass. Or not.
So when have to do that evening?
If you can get it in before Sally moves the question. Which she's done to me 3 or 4 times over the.
Once. So one stands up during the meeting and just say.
If I were, I don't wanna give advice, but procedurally speaking, if I were in the town meeting and I wanted it to be voted on by secret ballot, I would stand right up at the back first. As soon as the moderator reads the article and make that motion personally, but that's somewhat, that's an individual choice.
Again, get recognized by the moderator.
Right.
Or
To make that motion.
But I asked another procedural question that you said after the moderator has read the article, they're
Yeah.
gonna read the whole article?
I would suspect he'll waive the reading of it, but that's up to the moderator.
And the town
Yeah,
can
the town
require
can
him to
require.
read it all, or can ask him not to
Okay,
read it.
but like, and this also is gonna apply to some later ones where all those meets and bounds descriptions.
I would certainly hope the moderator waives the reading,
But
because that will put you to sleep. Okay, any other comments, neither pro nor con? I'll go through, the audience, I don't see anybody, so I'm gonna close this portion of the public hearing. We are going to now address, several other articles specifically that are in. I'm not gonna run this formally, because they're not technically a public hearing. Let's start with the revaluation article, which is Article. Excuse me. On 5. And I am gonna read this, it's very short. To see it. I'll wait till people settle. Okay, Article 5 is, to see if the town will vote to authorize the select board to execute a contract with RCS Assessment Services, Inc. to conduct a townwide property revaluation to be effective April 1st, 2027. This time and materials agreement is estimated to cost $172,000 and to be funded approximately as follows: reserve funds $118,400, anticipated revenue $53,200, and appropriation $900. I prepared a little handout, which we didn't. Because we were doing it last minute today. If you want to just pass it around, and people can take it if they want to or not. I'll give it a second to get it around. Do you see anybody with their hands up?
Yeah.
I don't tend to
No.
notice that, so. I've been neglected through the whole public hearing on the window section, but look once. Just pass them around, folks. Okay, I'm just gonna follow this a little bit and then we can, open it up to discussion and questions. And again, since this is not a public hearing per se, we can be much more informal than we were in the last one. But basically, the handout, repeats the article. It says, what is a townwide property evaluation? Basically, simply put, every property in town starts at zero and they are, reassessed for, tax purposes. They'll actually come out and measure. We typically pick up a lot of decks and sheds and stuff that people that weren't there, when we did the last one. And that type of stuff, but basically, it's kind of, we start all over again, so to speak. And that's why I call it a zero-based process of starting from scratch. The last reval we had done was in 2006, which is a while ago now, given property prices. The current proposed reval, as I said before, would be effective April 1st, 2020. 2027, right, sorry. Several people have asked why now? And really there's a couple of reasons. One is due to the simple age. The state, I think they recommend or require, but don't really enforce it too drastically, every 10 years, if I recall, right?
They
Yeah,
encourage.
and we're double that.
Really want.
And the other reason, quite frankly, is the property values have increased so dramatically in the past few years that we, for 3 consecutive years now, have, including this year to come, have applied a factor of 15% and then 20% and next year 35% to every property in town, lifting their values from those 2006 values. And in an effort to keep within 10% of the state valuation, which is supposedly market valuation. And that's important to maintain because once we fall below that 90%, the way the state punishes you or penalizes you, I guess I should say, is they start reducing the value of everyone's homestead exemption. So the only people that don't get penalized are the people that are non-residents and own property because they don't have a homestead. So they don't get penalized, but all the residents who live here get penalized because they start losing their homestead value. So that's a key reason to do this. And also this is a tough one, but so many people are under the impression that if their valuation goes up, their taxes will automatically go up, and that is simply not correct. On the back, I don't know if you follow this or not, there's a couple little charts I put together. And in the first example 1 at the top, that shows what would happen to people's taxes if everybody's valuation went up 86%. I just picked that out of the sky. These just hypothetical. This is a town with 10 parcels of land in it. And I've listed the 2006 valuation, the current mill rate, or close to our current mill rate. What that generates in a current tax, which you'll notice is 148,500 in bold. Then the increase in value to come up with the new valuation, which goes from 9 million to 16,000,704. That allows the mill rate to be reduced from 16.5 to 8.871, which then generates, guess what? $148,500 in taxes. And that, so if everybody's property went up the same amount, which it won't, but if everyone's did, nobody's tax would increase based strictly on the valuation adjustment. Now it might increase because the school payment went up or down, or the county payment, or the municipal budget, but not because of the property tax revaluation. And then in the second box, I did the same thing, but I didn't assume 86% on all the parcels. I assumed 91%, 91%, 103%, 103. And there you'll see some people's taxes went up. This is the far right column now on the bottom box. And some people's taxes went down. So the total increased tax collected townwide is the same, but in that case, they went up and down. Okay, and then the last thing I wanted to talk about very briefly is why people have said, well, why don't we just why spend $172,000 on a reval? Why not just keep factoring every year? And there's really two primary reasons for that. One is, and the simple one is it gets complicated because you factor and then you factor on a factor and then you factor on a factor. And if you make a mistake, that factor gets compounded. And it becomes a bit of an administrative nightmare. But the real and most important reason is when you raise everybody's taxes valuations the same amount, that does nothing to address what is known, the state calls the quality ratio, which is a relative difference between different classes of property or different types of property. And in South Thomaston, the big example is waterfront versus non-waterfront. So, and if you fall below a 70% quality ratio, you can be in store for the same type of penalty. You start losing homestead. But it's also more just a question of fairness. I mean, if certain properties have increased 200% and other properties have increased 20%, the factoring doesn't adjust for that. And so it becomes unfair, if you will, from a relative point of view. So that's a brief explanation. Jeff, did you want to add anything?
No,
It's a complicated subject,
Yeah.
but.
Yeah, but I think you covered it well. And I think the key takeaway, well, there's two things. One, the key takeaway is that just because the value of your house goes up, that doesn't mean your taxes go up. Taxes are based on how much the town needs to gather to pay for the school, to pay for the county, and to pay for what you vote at town meeting for our expenses. So the taxes aren't impacted by how much the valuation is. Now, like he explained, if the property value for non-waterfront, which is what we strangely saw over the last few years, for non-waterfront goes up higher than the increase for waterfront, then a reeval will catch that. And so there could be some just differences in how much you pay in taxes. The town still pays the same amount. You still pay, overall, the town taxes are the same, but individuals might be a little bit off because of the difference in the quality portion of it. The other thing is that this is going to require the company that's doing the reeval to come around. They'll call, they'll have badges so that you know who they are. They'll be knocking on your door. They'll ask to come in. You don't have to let them in, but if you don't let them in, then they make assumptions about what's on the inside. So if you want to get your valuation closer to correct, then it's to your advantage to let them in. So the other thing this does is it catches for the town any changes or improvements or new buildings or that we didn't catch through the CEO's process of permitting.
Or buildings that were torn down.
Or buildings that were torn down.
That's
right.
right. Those get neglected more than anything. You know, garages, old garages get torn down and you've been paying taxes on them for 10 years, so.
That's
Okay. So, questions, comments, and I'm not doing the for or against thing here, just general. Was that clear as mud?
Where's the hand up?
Yeah, I see that now. Yeah, thank you.
I read in here that it depends maybe upon where the property is located,
It could, yeah,
so the properties within a certain distance of the proposed quarry, would that affect the valuation?
could. Several years ago,
How did that?
several years ago, gone way back, when Ned Sleeper was,
97, 95, 97.
no, the airport there.
Yeah.
Okay.
95.
We had a group of people around the airport area who came in, made a very convincing case that their property values were being somewhat impacted by noise. The airport at that time was very active with MBNA, if I recall. We granted them, the assessors agent came up with some sort of formula, depending on how far they were, and there was a sort of a cluster of abatements granted in that area. So yes, it could be, but it also could be if if 20 years ago, you know, you had a house there and now next to it, someone opened up a junkyard 4 years ago, that could impact the value of it. So those types of things.
Okay, thank you.
No more questions? No comments? Okay. And then the last thing that we want to talk about, and then people can ask any questions on anything in the warrant if they would like to. There is a series of 3 articles dealing with the preserve, forest preserve out back that Sandra and others have been working on tirelessly to get a reimbursement from the Lands for Maine Future for the purchase price that we spent to acquire those properties. One that starts with article, wow.
16.
yeah, it's a long. Okay. Oh, the microphone. Article 16, basically, that land was conveyed to us in 5 different legal lots, 3 from Smith and 2 from Klein. And this article simply combines those into 1 lot. And the reason we did that is because and there's a description of that, and the reason that's proposed, or the primary reason, is in order to get reimbursed from the Lands from Maine Future, we had to have access to a public highway. And we have another article here that would grant access along the Stumpford Dump Road, up the old Woods Road, not across the Frethrow property, but. And then take a left after the Fork property up there. And it would abut the line of one of the Smith's property. But if we don't combine them, that only provides access to that 1 parcel, doesn't provide access to the entire parcel. But if they're combined, we only have to touch it once. So that's the 2nd article. And the 3rd article, which is article 18, is I think I'll ask Sonia to address this, but basically it's an article that would allow for some corrective and or changes to the restrictions that were originally put on the Smith property when it was conveyed to us. And they pretty much result out of, well, one's an error, a word got dropped. But the other one, as I understand it, pretty much result out of a forester talking with the Conservation Commission, basically saying that, you know, you probably do want the ability to do some selective cutting, not for profit purposes, but if you have a disease or something like that, and technically
Actually not.
not, okay.
No, that wasn't the problem. Problem was.
Well, then why don't you explain?
Yeah, the, Jeff Smith agreed to sell the property to us only if we would put it into conservation and be subject to very specific restrictions on what we could do with the property. And when we got to managing forests, there are also restrictions on recreational vehicles and stuff like that. But on forest management, it was clear that he did not want it to be, you know, this is not a revenue source. You can't just harvest timber, but you could take out diseased trees that were threatening other trees or whatever. But first there was a garble and a word got dropped so that the language that ended up in his deed and then was copied in town warrant articles, applying both to the Smith and Klein property. The intention originally was just to allow, dealing with invasive species. Either, and all it allowed was eradicating invasive species. So what fell out was authority to prevent the introduction of invasive species, and there was nothing in there that allowed us to restore or introduce native species. So the Conservation Commission and Jeff Smith have agreed that it would be good to expand the permitted uses on that land to include introducing or restoring native species, and to clarify and clean up the garbled language to make clear that we could prevent the introduction of and or eradicate invasive species. So that's what this article does, and it's only part of the solution, would be to authorize the town to accept a deed from Jeff Smith, correcting his original deed and allowing the expanded use and clarifying the garbled language. We're also going to need to do something separately, which John has assured me the select board would be willing to do, to apply the same changes, expansion and correction to the Klein property. Which will one way or another involve correcting the warrant article that was approved in the 2024 annual town meeting.
So,
Everybody's looking confused. Is it me that confused? Okay.
one minor correction, you said it would authorize the town to accept the deed, it authorizes the select board.
Oh, I misspoke. Yes, of course.
And it's written kind of flexible on purpose, so we can navigate, so.
Oh, I did have a question, because in our exchanges today, when I thought this was still a draft and you said, no, you voted on it and it's what's in, so does that mean that what's in the warrant that will be voted on includes this red language of to accept a deed ?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah, and I think that gives us the authority to do, and it also says deed or other appropriate instrument.
no, it doesn't.
Oh, mine does,
Really?
yeah,
Okay, then we don't have the same thing.
that could be. Does yours say draft?
Yeah? Oh, you've got a final?
We dealt with this, we signed it last week, and the reason we had to do it,
That, what's up there?
yeah,
Oh,
and the reason we had to do that is because technically the town meeting opens
right,
next Tuesday, when we voted the polls for a select board and school board member. And we had to have it up 7 days ahead, and that really means 10 days, cause you gotta type it and post it and get it,
Weekend.
so, huh? You got weekend, right, exactly, and so, and you never know who's gonna be sick or, whatever, so. So, those are the three, I guess, call them what,
Non-standard.
non-standard articles. Is there any other questions on the three? I'll take all three of them combined, because they're all kind of related on the forest reserve. Okay,
More,
oh, go ahead.
More dramatic. What did this cost the town to do all this? Because I assume you had to hire an attorney and there was work with our town attorney, and how were the costs paid for?
Have been costs. But I don't know exactly how they've been paid for at this point, but all the costs are minuscule compared to what we anticipate getting back. We've been approved by the Land for Maine Future for reimbursement of the entire cost.
which
Correct me if I'm wrong, which is
$67,000.
right, and we now have actually, one of the attorneys has done work so far pro bono, I believe. I'm looking at Terry. Um, and, we had, some donations.
The surveys have all been paid out of donations.
Yeah, and we had, Catherine got a couple of grants.
And donations.
Right. Yeah, that was the biggest success, was the right-of-way survey. And the right-of-way survey, when you think about it, it makes sense because technically, there's nothing that says the town 400 years from now wouldn't sell this piece of land, and then that land becomes landlocked. So, I don't know if that answers, I don't have the details, but it's,
My second question was about the total amount being reimbursed, but I think you need to tell town meeting that what these folks did. And that they got this money and a lot of it was donated and what they did, their hard work and what it's achieved.
I might as well take this opportunity to say that we are in the process of calculating how much more it will cost us to get to the finish line in terms of meeting all the conditions to actually be given the grant money that we've been provisionally approved for. And we will be sending out another appeal for donation.
and just so you know, this is not federal money, so it's state money, where we don't fear at this point that it's gonna be yanked away even after they've approved it, so. So anything else on this? I know it's kind of complicated, but it's almost housekeeping type stuff. I don't mean to minimize it, but in order, we gotta jump through these hoops. And I think the select board made a decision that even if it costs the town 20,000 to get 67,000 back, that's a pretty good investment when I could do it with my own money, so. So that was sort of the approach behind it, but at this point, I don't think we put any traditional town money into it at this point. I could be wrong. about
Other
that,
than the
but-
reserve, setting up the reserve.
Yeah, but have we spent any of that?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
So
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Would you?
we set up a reserve account for this,
Yes.
Yeah,
but so far we haven't touched it.
Right. Yeah.
All still in there.
Yeah, and that wasn't just for this, that was for anything to do with down the road down there, so. So, I tried to walk out there, it is very wet.
Yeah.
But, I mean, really wet. I mean, it was wet the last couple of years when I tried and got through, but this year was just. Okay, so those are the non-standard articles. Are there any other questions or concerns or comments on any of the other articles? So we have the budget, of course. Not prepared to, we don't have a presentation on that, but if anybody has any questions or.
John, may I ask a question about the school budget?
Yeah, you're probably not gonna get much of an answer, but go ahead.
For RSU 13, and there are 5 towns, why does South Thomaston pay the greatest amount, the highest percentage?
Well, it's a very complicated formula that is based on students and valuation. It's not just based on students, as a lot of people would assume. It's a mix. And I don't know that we pay the highest amount percentage wise, if we went up the highest.
We
this year.
increased more than any other
highest
town, but we don't pay as much as Rockland pays.
Yeah.
So we aren't at the top of, as far as cost. And part of that is they use the state valuation for our town, which is 30% higher than what we have it currently, which is 20% higher than what we had it last year and 15% higher than we had it the year before. So that's one of the reasons is because the value of our property has increased significantly over the last year.
Well, basically, the way the formula works, and it's a local decision on the local expenses only, that's expenses outside of the state aid, is that can be based on 100% valuation or 100% students or any combination in between. So you get the classic examples of little towns like Newry, Maine, which has 4 students, but happens to host Sunday River with a huge valuation compared to everybody else up there. So, you know, they're paying like, I'm exaggerating, but $100,000 a student because of that situation, but, so. Other questions about other parts of the budget or the other parts of the warrant?
I want to comment on what you just said. Isn't it true that because we have so much beautiful real estate bordering the ocean, the state thinks that we're worth more money?
Yeah. Yeah, the state aid is distributed in large part on valuation. So places like Lewiston get, I don't know, again, I'm exaggerating, but maybe 85% of their budget paid for by the state. And then there's other places like,
Owl's Head.
yeah, Owl's Head or North Haven that get sort of minimum receiver. And they have everybody as a minimum receiver, because if they didn't, then they would be hard pressed to punish them. That's a joke. But I bet there's some truth to it. Anything else? Where?
Is there gonna be a booklet coming out, the printed, or is this?
There's a town report gonna come out. I think we're ready to release it tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna announce at the beginning of the select board meeting, but I'll announce it now since you brought it up, because people will probably leave. But we dedicated the report to. This past year, we lost both Carolyn and Jerry Grissom. Jerry was the town's road commissioner for 48 years. His wife was the town clerk and treasurer, and in effect, back in those days, the town administrator, although we didn't have one for, I don't know how many years, many years, a couple of decades. And they both passed away last year, so we dedicated that to them, and they're struggling with some issues, so we didn't invite them to the meeting tonight, but I was gonna go over tomorrow morning and give them a copy of the report. They're aware of it. And we also dedicated it to, co-dedicated it to Jerry's brother Larry, who, if you were awake at 2 a.m. last winter in a storm, or anytime in the last 50 years, he would have been the guy driving the plow truck by your house and stuff. And he told me when he first started plowing, most of the roads in town were gravel. And so he worked for Jimmy Callick the last dozen or so years plowing. He told Jimmy he was gonna give it up a couple of years ago. Jimmy couldn't find anybody to replace him. So at the age of 80 something, he said, I'll do 1 more year. And so he's out back at 3 a.m. all by himself, loading salt onto the, at 80 something years old, so.
It should be 82 within my sister Catherine's class.
Okay, he's 80 something. But still, it's dark and scary out there at night. So, okay, so I guess we'll close the public hearing and open the select board meeting. And I think I'll wait just a few seconds in case people are gonna shuffle out of here. If you are, you have conversations and you're gonna leave, take them around the corner out into the front, because it comes right back into here, so.
Let me run and grab. I plug in, it says I've got 70%.
Oh, you better. We're still looking for a minute taker. We'll pay you. We'll pay you.
Town office person, so.
Wow, send it out.
So you're staying for,
I might know about.
Our minute taker had to go and get her plug in because she's down to 7%.
If I went home and turned on the computer, would somebody notice I wanted to get on Zoom?
I wouldn't.
Oh, you would. When the person goes, supposed to not show that.
Yeah, she'll be back.
She'll be back. She just went to get her power supply. She didn't realize she was down to 7%.
It happens, at which point everybody crashes.
I don't know. People ask me, what's the matter with Zoom? I said, you're asking the wrong person.
Well, and then poor Hannah.
Don't lose the Zoom.
Not enough that, we're gonna read us nicely. Okay, perfect. There we go.
We good to go?
We are good to go.
Oh, good.
You all don't have, you don't have to sit way back there. Okay, so, all right, we ready to roll out there?
Yes, and if you copies, I've got it right here.
Okay, okay, I'm gonna call this meeting, since it's already 10 minutes to 7. I'm gonna call this, meeting of the select board, of June 3rd to order. And, Sally, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
No.
Okay. I will.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Minutes of May 27th. I'll be honest with you, with everything going on, I didn't get a chance to read these. Read them? I read them. You're good?
Yeah,
Okay, that.
I'll make a motion to approve the select board meeting minutes from May 27th.
I'll second that. Sue, you're here.
I'm here.
Need you to participate now. Okay, is there a second to Jeff's motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, further discussion? All those in favor?
Jeff, I.
Sue?
Sue, I.
John, aye. Public comments for items not on the agenda? Not on the agenda?
Yeah.
You have,
Hi, Lynn Tutel.
Yeah.
I, would like to talk about the library community center and the growth that we've had, which has been wonderful. And I think we have grown to a point that there should be a treasurer in place, if not one, but two. There is a tremendous amount of cash flow that is now going through this community center, along with checks, donations, that people are donating checks. And I think it's extremely important that anybody that makes a donation to the library or the community center, that they be acknowledged and a thank you note. And I think at this point, the director does not have enough time to take care of that part of this business. I'll call it a business, because there are so many other things that she has to do. And it was brought to my attention that a few things got misplaced. And one person was very upset that there was no acknowledgement about a donation that was given. And I don't know how the system works now, but for some reason, it fell apart at that point, whether the system is in place or not. But I feel strongly, along with that because it's grown to this place, this point, which is excellent, that there should be a treasurer, probably two, that should only report to the select board, the townspeople, and the I don't know how it would work, or how you could put that in place. But that's what I came here, well, not only for that, but
Mhm.
to bring that to your attention.
Okay,
Can I comment?
yeah.
Yeah, that is in fact on the agenda. Yeah,
I didn't see it.
No, it's
discuss
much,
with the library community center director, possibly in executive session.
yeah, that's not as broad as
Right.
that suggestion, but yeah, it's sort of related to it, yeah.
And to your specific recommendation, the town has a treasurer.
Right,
Where? I mean.
right there.
Already, so how would something like,
Like everything else in the town goes through the front desk.
and if it doesn't happen like that?
It should, but we have two accounts that don't go through the, in my opinion, it should, that's a personal opinion.
Mhm.
But we have two accounts in town that don't go through the treasurer. They are certainly under the town's federal ID number, but the expenses and deposits are not necessarily always cut out of what we call warrants, which the treasurer draws up and then the select board has to design. But I think what you're talking about personally has merit to have a discussion on. But I'd like to put it off, and when we have it on we put it on an agenda and look into it a little bit, and as opposed to making quick rash decisions here tonight.
No, I'm just,
And I didn't think you would. but-
I was
Yeah,
not making a rash decision or coming here for
yeah,
any.
yeah. 'Cause I agree, the other account is with the ambulance director. And I talked to him about that, and he would be much happier if it came through the town and the checks were cut from the town. And that gets him right out of that business, so to speak, you know. Yeah, it's just a matter if you want a supply, you go, we have charge accounts, you go over, you charge it. A bill comes in the town office and it's paid out of that account, and I'm oversimplifying it, but yeah. Petty cash gets a little more difficult, but we could set up a policy where, you know, maybe there was $100 petty cash or
That's
something.
okay, so
Yeah,
you're,
yeah,
so
I
you're
understand.
working, you're
Yeah.
working
Yeah.
on this.
I mean, if somebody wants to, but. So I think that's something we need to talk about, and we are talking to the librarian later on in the meeting. About an issue related to part of what you brought up about checks not being.
I would think it would take a lot of the stress and burden off the director, that she not be involved.
Yeah.
In the cash flow or the checks that come in, and if it were to work as simply as you're saying, then
Yeah,
that would be perfect.
well, it won't work that simply, but.
That's what I didn't want to say that, but you made it sound like it was.
No, but I mean, technically, the town has one treasurer. Now, that treasurer can appoint deputies, has appointed deputies. This is our treasurer. Terry is now a deputy treasurer. So, you know, I think we should, personally, I think we should build off that structure, because that's really what. And I'm not casting any dispersions here, because believe me, throughout the state of Maine, there's all kinds of weird little setups where. You know, things that are sort of quasi town things, and they don't, you know, and we had a bad experience here.
Yeah.
Several years ago, with donations that were made out to the town of South Thomas, and in some cases going into an account that wasn't under the town's federal. Employee ID number, so I mean, so let's put that on the next agenda, I think at this point, we stand everyone. Okay, thank you very much.
And just to follow up with that, I think it's clear in state statutes that we are obligated to do that.
I do too.
So,
would.
And I think, I think what the issue was, when, you know, when we were dealing with $50 or $60 or something like that, it was.
It's not that way anymore.
I know, I understand, yeah. I understand that, so, but I think that was sort of the reason, you know, so, cause we used to have 3 accounts, if you were, that were outside, so, okay. Adjustments to the agenda, just a quick comment on this, Jen, didn't understand that once we publish the agenda, when we do an adjustment, she doesn't need to republish it and repost it, and she did, so there's 2 agendas floating up there.
Spent a lot of time driving, so.
So, I said, no, you don't have to do that, adjustment means to the agenda that we'll adjust it at the meeting. So I'm working off, I'm not sure which agenda, but if you say, well, that's not on my agenda, I'm working off the one that was in our packet, so. So for adjustments, we have several, right? And I'm not sure which of these were already caught and which weren't. But we did catch the firefighter safety program, that came in
Yes,
late. What else on?
and then there was one for the town clerk or the deputy town clerk director, that was added on late.
The deputy,
Fulfill.
oh, the vacation
Yes.
issue,
Mhm.
and that's on here, okay. And then there was something we wanted to talk about, it came up today, we were gonna talk about, I said, remind me, we're gonna adjust the agenda to. And I don't remember what it was.
There was something that came in from a senator, I don't know if that's what you want to talk about, but then we
No.
also did get an
No.
extra donation today, so.
Okay, you got another donation?
Mhm.
Okay, well, we can put that under donations.
Okay.
But there was something else we wanted to talk about, and I promised someone we'd take it up tonight. We talked about this morning,
Other than,
other than the ones you had sent out, I said we can. Oh, the quitclaim deed is one.
oh, yes,
Terry, do you recall it all?
No.
Okay, well, I'll keep thinking.
yeah,
I think the quitclaim deed was the biggie.
yeah.
And I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna go, oh, I promised that person. Okay, so, let's try to move this along quickly if we can. It's already 7 o'clock, so. Update on the solar rebate, it's, I'll let you explain it, but basically Meg from the Council of Governments thinks we now need to hire an accountant.
Yes, so it started out that we just needed to fill out, basically it was a form 990T. And then from that was a 3800, and then from that came another form. And so, poor Terry has spent far more many hours than I have trying to research this. But I got a contact from, Meg Rasmussen. And she basically says that most, it hasn't gone through many main towns, but a lot of nonprofits are now hiring accountants to basically do this because it's far too complicated. The one accountant name that she gave me, quickly responded back saying that they don't do this through main towns. But basically gave us, information for other accountants, basically out of Portland. So as John says, what was not supposed to cost anything is unfortunately going to cost. I mean, Meg assures us that we're gonna get more money out in the end. For the solar rebate, but as I've been looking through the 3800, and I think it's a 3468 that has to go into the 3800. It's far too complicated without accountants, because you have to just fill out form after form after form, just to get to the 990T. So, yeah, and it's mainly, accountants that work just for nonprofits. Because like Meg said, you can't find one that has worked with a main town head.
So what do we wanna do? I put this under the classification, I had a nickel for every time I was told that something wasn't gonna cost us anything. But we're into it, I mean, Terry's put hours into this. What's the reimbursement? Do you remember?
I wanna say 14,000.
Yeah, I mean, at what point are we? I mean, I'm sort of almost ready to just live and learn.
Yeah, and as you know, I felt that way from the beginning on this one. I was worried that it was gonna take us too many hoops to jump through and for what little we're gonna get back from it. And then the other part of it is that unlike the money we're getting from the state for the forest, this is federal and it's for solar, which is right in the center of what they're stopping. So even if we jump through all these hoops, I'm not convinced we'd see a penny of it personally.
And spend that money and more time. And now, I mean, Terry spent hours on this, Hannah spent some time before, now Jen's spending.
Well, I understand that I'm not a member of the select board, but I had solar put on my house, and granted, this was another state, but it was 1 year of a tiny refund, and then after that, they stopped it. And so other than what you're getting by saving on electricity, it really doesn't, I mean.
Well, yeah, except they had a plan. The resiliency committee, I believe, had a plan, or someone did for that money, which was to put gravel under the and fiber, not the fabric and gravel under the solar panels and re-erect a fence around it when that money came in, but by the time it comes in with inflation.
Right.
I mean, I could look up the cost of what an accountant would charge, but it's up to you.
Yeah, no, I know what that does.
Yeah.
I'm willing to find out how much it would cost. I mean, if we're talking less than a couple $100, then okay, but if it's gonna be,
Bucks?
yeah, I'm willing to spend a couple $100.
I know, but do you get a plumber to show up, brother?
I know. But
and now we just signed on with another grant through the resiliency committee that, I hope we don't head down the same path, but. Okay, I do think that perhaps one of us, or a letter or something, I don't know when they're meeting yet, but. We maybe should advise the resiliency committee on. Because that's where this grant came out of originally, right? That, you know, this grant that was gonna cost us nothing has now turned into a. Mega hours of administrative time and so on and so forth, but. But Sally, you're on that committee, so.
I don't understand why this is so different than dealing as a homeowner with a solar rebate.
because we don't pay taxes. So with somebody who pays taxes gets a rebate on their taxes. Since we don't pay taxes, we have to set up a separate account with the federal government
And then they.
to wash this through. So
Was
so
all
we're,
this taken care of when I put solar on my house.
Yeah, because
Right.
you pay taxes,
because you pay taxes.
you can take it out of your taxes, so.
Right.
All right, all right, let's, but I'm loath to put too many more hours into this, I mean, we got a new town administrator. Terry's trying to work with her on transition issues. I actually thought it was a little more than 14,000, but. For some reason I had 50 in my head, but.
Oh, I don't think the whole grant was that much.
No.
Yeah, I know, I'm getting old and confused.
Yeah, and I remember having this exact same conversation.
So. Yeah, I have no idea. That may be where I'm getting at number from, so let's do that, few more questions, a little bit of time, don't get
Okay.
crazy about it, I mean, this is just. It just seems to be a rabbit hole that we can't get out of. So, okay, FEMA grant, that we've been approved for, we're just waiting for cash, right, okay. If that doesn't get pulled, because that had to do with climate change and flooding, so,
But
okay. Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to know what the FEMA grant is. It's a new grant?
In the storm damage, the two bad storms, not last winter, 2 years ago, we had damage by McClune's to the road.
Yeah.
And by, the Huey dumps right there at the corner of Village Road. We had them come down, they said, yeah, you're eligible, we did the repair work, we submitted a reimbursement bill, and we're told that it's just a matter of getting, we've got everything in, everything's approved, we're all set, it's just a matter of getting checks cut. They're understaffed and whatever. Hopefully we will, so.
This one's for substantially.
Yeah, that's like 80,000. Yeah. Okay, discussion on tax acquired properties. I'm happy to say, I think we can drop the S. And take up one of the adjustments to the agenda. You're gonna have to walk me through this. I can't remember the gentleman's name.
Yeah, so today, we had, his name is, let me look.
John Thompson. I believe.
Yeah, John Thompson, 695 Spruce Head Road, came in today and wants to pay, the full amount and a little bit more. We did a quick claim deed. And if you, both want to sign off on it, then tomorrow I can get Phil to notarize. And, then basically what we'll do is Terry and I will go in tomorrow and we will fill out everything that needs to be filled out. And then he wants to pay a little bit more for the upcoming year. That basically came in at the 11th hour and decided that he wants to pay,
So you paid us in cash.
pay us in
So we
cash,
don't have to worry about the check bounce.
right? Pay us in
And
cash.
he paid more than enough to cover all the, well, what would have been due in taxes and costs, but for the year, but only for the year
Right,
that led to its being tax acquired. He still owes
so he even.
3 years or 2 years?
So no, he's paid everything, so he's paid up. So
No,
he's paid-
no, no.
Oh, no, he
Paid 1 year.
Yeah, he
Okay,
paid,
1 year,
he
okay.
paid the year that it was tax acquired,
Okay.
which would have been 3 years ago?
22,
Okay. 3 years
22,
ago.
and I think now we just have to get the,
23 and 24, and in August it'll owe 25.
oh, yeah,
Yeah,
and then we just have to get the $19 from it, and yeah.
we seem to be doing more and more of this. We used to be much more stricter about it. And once it was tax acquired, you had to come in and pay all years.
Right.
In the last few times, we've allowed people to pay off, for lack of a better word, because there's technically no taxes due anymore since it's tax acquired. The year that was tax acquired, I'm okay with that. Does he live there, do we know?
Yes.
Yes.
He does, okay, I'm particularly okay with it if someone lives there. So, is there a motion to execute a quitclaim deed for it specifies the tax year? I haven't seen it.
Yes, it does. I'd make a motion to authorize the board to execute the quitclaim deed for map 2, lot 4, 695 Spruce Head Road for the tax acquired amount and anything that is due for penalties and interest for the year 2022. And it specifically says it does not release him from 23 or 24.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Jeff, I.
Sue?
Sue, I.
John, I. These need to be witnessed. For signatures. Okay, now we can adjust the agenda and talk about discussion of tax acquired property. So the only tax acquired property we have left from 2022 is Francis Walsh, 6 Field Street. We went through this last year. He has not paid, and the deadline, we sent him his letter and did everything we were supposed to do. He has not come in and paid. So I guess our choices are, we can try to find real estate agent and list it and sell it, or we can just let it drag on, which I don't wanna do. I know last time, we actually went down and pinned a note on the door, I think, and said, please come and talk to us. We're in the process of putting this up for sale, which is not required. Weren't required to do that, but we just wanted to give them one last shot, and then I personally would be in favor of that too. We actually pinned it to his door. I think Hannah went down, didn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause all the certified mail gets returned and, or some of it does, or, no?
Yeah, he doesn't pick up his mail, but the snail mail never gets returned, so he gets a.
Yeah.
And on the downside, I contacted Greg Pete and he's not interested.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
And if we can't find anyone that's interested, then we can sell it the old fashioned way, just put it up a bit, my understanding.
And we gotta ask two more if they say.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to document the
Yeah,
decline.
document that, right, put it in the parcel file.
Okay.
So we're gonna ask two more, so is there a motion to proceed with sale?
I would make a motion to proceed with sale and at the same time pin a note to his door, giving him one last opportunity.
I will
Is there a
second,
second?
I'll second that.
And I just wanna say, he was fully aware of this when a year ago, we went through the same thing. And we told him, you do realize, he came in August or July, paid it, and we said, you realize you're gonna have the next year foreclosed in December, coming right up. Oh, yeah, so. I don't know. Okay, all those in favor, Sue?
Do I?
Jeff,
John, I. Okay, we'll hold off on B. Replacement of the ambulance windshield, I think this was put on before we realized the cost was basically gonna be.
Less than the deductible.
Less than the deductible.
Right.
So I don't think there's any action for us to take here, there's no sense in filing a claim for something that's less than our deductible, so.
and it would just come out of the ambulance budget.
I guess it's gonna have to.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's any select board action, it seems to me it's just kind of an administrative action, would you agree? So is there a motion to table this?
No, we need a motion, just no action, we're not gonna.
Okay,
Yeah.
is there a motion to take no action with this?
Yeah. That would be my motion.
Okay.
No action.
Okay, is there a second to taking no action? I
I'll
like
second,
that.
I'll second that.
Okay, further discussion, all those in favor, actually, I do have further discussion. David explained to me how this happened, and it actually makes a lot more sense now that I've learned how it happened. When the door is put up manually, a lever comes down that, when you roll it up, and the ambulance box is higher than that lever. So when they drove the ambulance box out, it hit the
Released it.
lever and that released the door, so. Cause I was thinking, oh, come on, guys, but I apologize for my bad thoughts. So, and John and I, did we
Jeff, I.
Do I?
Yeah. Okay. Discussion of vacation hour payout for the deputy town clerk director. I don't know that this needs to go into executive session. Bill
We're just gonna do
accrued-
it in accordance with.
He accrued 3 weeks on April 1st. We've been fortunate that he's hasn't said, I want to take 3 weeks vacation before I retire in June, because we having trouble keeping the doors open. He's training the new person who started yesterday. So I feel that we simply, after that many years of employee and his dedication right up to the end, that we should just offer him a buyout, or pay out his vacation when he leaves. If folks disagree with that, I think I would, or wanna discuss it, we can go into executive session, but I don't feel that we need to, unless there's concerns. Anybody feel the need to go into executive session to discuss this?
I don't.
No, nope, I'm all for it.
Okay, is there a motion to,
I move we authorize the payout of vacation hours to Phil Barrow for 145 hours.
I'll second that.
further discussion? $145, $145
145 hours.
I thought you said dollars.
Get away cheap that way.
Okay, all those, further discussion. All those in favor, Sue?
Do I?
Jeff, I.
John, aye. I just remembered one of the other adjustments. You sent an email out asking about clothing.
Oh.
Yeah, and just so you know, we can't make decisions by email as a
Okay.
board. We have to do it publicly.
Okay.
What you can do is you can say, I'm gonna do this unless someone objects.
Okay.
And then we're not making any decisions. But when you ask us, what do you wanna do? We
Wait,
can't
yeah.
answer to the next meeting. So just say, this is what I'm gonna do, and if Jeff goes berserk, then you can say,
Good to know.
I'll put this on the next agenda. So closing early. Why don't we take up that right now before I forget it? We got an email today asking about the town office closing early to set up a town meeting. We traditionally do that. I have no issue with that personally. What time are we talking about?
For Phil, probably.
No, the town meeting,
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock, so that's only an hour.
It's only an hour, yeah.
Okay. And then there was, huh?
Technically, it's 2, we're open. till
Oh, cause
6.
it's a Tuesday. Yeah, we're over to 6.
Okay,
Yeah.
But we do need to set up the town meeting.
Yeah, there's no question about that. The other thought, or the other request was to close early and didn't say when.
So for Phil, 2 o'clock if possible, because then we're gonna have a potluck. I'm not cooking. A potluck and have a cake, a dinosaur cake.
And this is to celebrate his retirement, and this would be here
Mhm.
at 2 o'clock.
What day is that?
That's not entirely correct.
Oh,
No?
no, it's not
Okay.
here.
We wanted to close at 2 o'clock on the 30th because we traditionally do to close out the books and start the new books.
Oh, okay.
We had planned on having, and I hope Phil's not listening, we planned on having like an open potluck lunch that people could stop in between 1 and 2, between 11 and 2.
This is
to
a
say
surprise?
goodbye. Yeah.
Oh, no one told me that.
I doubt he's listening.
No.
But no, we wanted to close at 2, so we
Yeah.
could close out the books and open the.
Oh, well, we traditionally do that too.
Yes, we do.
Okay, so, does anybody on the select board have an issue with any of this?
No,
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
no problem.
okay, let's just make sure it gets posted and on
Okay,
the email listserv and.
okay. And then also, just so that you know, so Todd Martin joining EMS. Fire chief asked that I check in this meeting. His video is off because he's cooking dinner, so let's just welcome Todd.
So, and he is here for what purpose?
Fire chief just asked him to just join in tonight.
Okay.
So,
So nothing's,
Is it for the Good Neighbor Firefighter Safety Program?
well, I know, that was my question, because that's next on the agenda. Hi, Todd, we're a little unclear why you're here. We knew David couldn't be, so are you just here to pay attention to, on the, festivities, or?
Yeah, that's what he just told me. He just said to check in so that if you saw me around the building or anything, you would know who I was.
Oh, so
Are you new hire?
have you not been hired?
Yeah, he's hired, haven't you?
I met with them last night. I met with Fire last night, but I don't know about the EMS part. I don't think so.
Have you been hired by the select board? I mean, we have to technically hire every employee.
No,
So is that why you're here?
I believe so. Yeah.
Well, that's a different kettle of fish.
Horse of a different color.
All right, well, why don't we deal with you then. So the chief is recommending that you be hired as a firefighter?
And EMS on both.
And in what position in EMS?
I'm an EMT.
And you're an EMT, okay. So, why don't you just briefly give us a little minute, 1 minute bio?
All right, so I live in Rockland, just over the line, so could be in South Thomaston pretty quickly. So I've lived on I was on Matinicus for a year, and then I've been living on North Haven for the last 3 years. And then we're moving back to Rockland at the end of this school year. By mid-June, I'll be back. So I just reached out because I did volunteer on South Thomaston for a little bit before I moved out to Matinicus. So I was just looking to get involved with EMS again, and he asked if I would want to join the fire department as well. And I said, sure. I've been an EMT since 1997, and I'm a teacher during the year. I'll be teaching 4th grade in friendship, starting in September. So I just wanted to be more involved somewhere closer to where I live. So.
Okay. So now that we know why you're here, is there a motion to approve the chief's recommendation to hire Todd, is it?
Yep. Yes, sir.
Todd, last name?
Martin.
Todd Martin as a EMT in the ambulance department and as a firefighter in the fire department.
I would make a motion that we accept the fire chief's and the ambulance director's recommendation, hire Todd Martin as a firefighter and an EMT.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
And I apologize for the confusion, but this came up late today and
Oh, that's okay.
we didn't really know why you were here. We thought you might have been here for the grant that David is applying for. So. But
No,
then I got thinking
I
about
wasn't
it,
sure
I don't
either. I
recognize
wasn't
that
really
name.
sure of the procedure, so.
Yeah,
but,
okay.
you know,
I do have one question.
Sure.
You're a qualified EMT. Are you fire 1 and 2?
no, I don't have any fire experience.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay.
But
But,
that will soon change.
Yeah, good.
okay,
Yeah.
further discussion? All those in favor?
Jeff, I.
Sue?
Do I?
John, I. Welcome aboard.
Hey, thank you very much.
Okay.
I'm sorry to bail. I have to go finish cooking dinner for three
Yeah,
other
that's
people.
fine. I'm glad we figured out why you were here.
Well, now if you see me around, I won't be a stranger.
There
Yeah.
you go.
All right. Have a good night.
Good night.
Okay, Good Neighbor Firefighter Safety Program. Cliff's not here or on the Zoom. I guess, the fire department Cliff has volunteered to prepare this grant for the Cliff Dasco for the fire department. He did send us an email with some of the details. I thought they were gonna provide us with a list of the equipment tonight. But you haven't seen anything, right?
No, I just know that you don't have to be part of State Farm to basically be able to get this.
Yeah, and they're not gonna come down here and pressure you and.
No.
Well, I'd make a motion to authorize the chief or Cliff to pursue the grant for firefighting equipment.
I will
Is there a
second that. I will second that.
I can't remember what he said the amount was.
10,000.
And there's no match requirement, and my question was, oh, now do you have to sit down with State Farm and listen to, 2 hours of them trying to sell you their insurance? Which I'm not interested in doing.
Right.
But he was gonna provide us with a list of equipment, I thought for tonight. So I'd still like that list, I'll vote for it, but I'd still like that list, so.
Yep.
So, you can email them tomorrow and
Okay.
say that we approved it, if we approve it, and ask them for the list that they were gonna give us.
Okay.
Okay. All right, all those in favor of the motion? Jeff,
Jeff, I.
Sue,
Do I?
John, I. Okay. I think that's all. Is that all the adjustments?
Good call. Yeah.
Really donation from Sandra Will.
Yeah, I was gonna take that up under donations, but yes, thank you. I know there was something else. Oh, I know. Fire truck. Just information. Finance, fire truck financing. I came in, sat with Terry and Jen and went through the numbers again. And as far as I'm concerned, we're not $18,000 short. I think what's happening is the money maybe in the wrong place perhaps, but in total, it's
Still the same.
still the same amount. To me, it matters not where the money is, it
Right.
matters. So I was gonna rework the sheets. To update, the financing plan. And try to bring them tonight, but that didn't happen, I ran out of time. I think we're good there, and I think Terry agrees and Jen was trying to swallow it. And did actually a pretty good job, so. And then the other thing, and I talked about it earlier, was town reports, so people can pick one up on the way out if they want to. There is a mistake in Irv's letter regarding the planning board. I believe it says that Moira is a member. I checked with Terry and Hannah, and she is an alternate. And I don't recall appointing her as a member. Neither did Terry. Jen, of course, wouldn't know because she wasn't there. You haven't changed your recollection on that, have you?
No.
So, and where they list the members in the beginning, she's listed as an alternate, but in Irv's chairman's letter, it says she's a member, so. I think that's it. Okay. Monthly report, we have one from the CEO, fire, ambulance, and EMA. There are no appointments to consider tonight.
I just want to say, I look forward every month to reading your CEO report.
There you go.
We ought to post that on the, on our webpage. I digress.
They are very good. I have to agree. I feel like we actually know what someone's doing. Okay, we have two donations. One is from Sandra Williams in the amount of $100, but it doesn't say for what, so.
So Sandra Williams, this one is for Thomaston Village Cemetery.
Okay,
And then we also had a brand new one that just came in at 3:30 today. And that is $100 for the South Thomaston Library.
okay, and that's from,
And this one is Spruce Head Fisherman's Co-op.
so is this the one that was lost?
Yes.
Which I think we've already,
I think we already approved it, didn't we?
yeah, we approved it
I don't recall approving it.
because we had it.
Hannah gave us a copy of a picture of it, but we didn't actually have the donation, so we may have. I wouldn't hurt to approve it twice.
Okay.
So, Sandra Williams, $100 was for
The South
Thomaston? Okay, you said.
Oh, South
Thomaston.
Thomaston.
South Thomaston Village
Okay,
Cemetery.
okay, that makes more sense.
Sorry.
Okay, is there a motion to accept, $100 donation from Sandra Williams for the South Thomaston Village Cemetery account?
So moved.
Sue?
I'll second that.
Okay, further discussion? All those in favor? Sue?
Do I?
Jeff, aye.
John, I. Just so you know, too, the reason when one of us, or one or more of us, or all three of us, or I guess that's more, one or more, are on Zoom, we have to vote orally.
Right.
Speak it.
Yes.
We can't just go like that.
Yes.
So, is there a motion, even if we've done it before, to accept $100 donation from the Spruce Head Co-op to the South Thomaston Library.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Further discussion? And we have that check here?
We do.
Okay, all those in favor?
Jeff, I.
Sue,
Sue, I.
John, I. Okay, we have warrants, number 83. Payroll warrant, not numbered. And the journal listing for 968, don't know what that is. So, that in here?
The journal listing of the United States Postal Service.
I didn't see it in there, so, okay. We don't have any correspondence, correct?
No.
Okay, June 10th, schedule future meetings. June 10th is election day. That's technically the beginning of town meeting. At 8 AM, we'll elect a moderator. And then the polls will be open from 8 AM to 8 PM, I believe. Is it PM?
Yeah.
Do we have a moderator set up?
We have one who's willing to stand for election, you mean?
Yeah.
Do we have a mod? Didn't you say we did before Jen came?
Got Jan,
Oh, you talked to Jan, didn't you?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
and he's willing to. but-
Okay, you better remind him.
Yes, I will.
Yeah. So he needs to be here at 8 o'clock on, so moderating town meeting means he's gonna be here at 8 o'clock on Tuesday, election day.
Right.
Okay,
He can appoint a deputy and leave 5 minutes later.
and I
but-
did tell him that, yes.
But he's gotta be here.
No, yes.
Okay. And I guess technically, if for some reason he doesn't show. You can always elect Bill and then he can appoint a deputy. Yeah, because he's not a clerk or anything, so. And you don't have to be a resident. Okay, and then we have a meeting on June 17th. No, that's the annual meeting portion of the town meeting on the 17th. And that's at 7 o'clock, correct?
Yes.
yes.
At Owl's Head Community School. And then we have a meeting on June 24th. Select board meeting, do we wanna, one thing that we definitely wanna do and be ready, prepared for is appointments, and I believe Hannah's chasing down those people whose appointments are expiring to see if they want to be reappointed. Let's make sure that doesn't slip away from us, and we wanna talk about July. We typically try to meet once in July and August. Never seems to work, but don't we schedule it that way if I recall? But it's not a calendar, it's an email. Ah, come on. Sorry, guys. Do we want to shoot for one?
Yeah.
Shoot for the 15th.
Of July, hold on. Yeah, I'm wide open. And if we have to schedule one for the 29th. Let's not schedule it, but if we need to do something, we could always on the 15th schedule something brief, maybe briefly for the 29th, so. And why don't we leave it at that, because nobody knows what anybody's doing. And Jen, I don't know if you knew or not, but typically we try to meet the second and fourth Tuesdays.
Yes.
Doesn't always work.
Okay,
Sometimes we have quick little meetings at 4 o'clock if it's,
okay.
yeah. So,
Going back to, Jan appointing deputies and they don't have to be a member of South Thomaston, so could that mean me if necessary or no?
well,
Yeah.
you're the clerk, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Is the clerk and the moderator can't be
Can't
the
be,
same
okay.
person, but I guess technically you could unappoint Terry that morning and as deputy clerk, and then she could apply, and then in the afternoon you could reappoint her.
Yeah, only reason I say it is.
It probably makes the most sense to have, just have Bill do it, does that make, no, I don't know. Terry, you know.
If Dan was still in Texas, or wherever he was, we appointed Sandy moderator. And then she appointed Jan as deputy
Right.
at town meeting.
Right, but this would be the reverse where
Right,
Right.
so,
he would be here, but he doesn't probably wanna stay here all day, and there are people that are already scheduled to be here all day.
yeah, you can appoint Sandy.
So he could appoint Sandy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right, yeah, the only reason I mentioned it is I don't mind
yeah,
staying someplace. else.
except that's
Not
not allowed.
Okay, all right,
For obvious reasons.
Right.
too.
okay.
I think there was one other adjustment, but I'm not gonna pull it out tonight. So without objection,
What do we wanna do?
what? Oh, yes. So we have, executive session. I don't see Penny again.
She again wants a phone call.
Oh, she called you?
I dropped stuff off for the Lions Club. She was there.
Okay.
She's at the library phone. Last week when I tried to get a hold of her, I used her home phone, and so she didn't get it. So, but I know what the library's phone number
No.
is.
Yes, actually, hold on just one moment.
You know what the library number is by chance?
Nope.
If you don't, I will get it. Real quick.
May not get good service in there,
I'll step on.
yeah.
Last time I was able to call out there.
It's gonna get a card.
Yeah. Going to back street, they part of it. Back and here.
Oh, the fee.
Just a problem.
No, I'll be back.
Jen, I'm gonna swing those your way. Oh, they were supposed to go further.
You're fine, you're fine.
My goal was to sit for a whole meeting.
Yeah, just, so we're ready for you anytime.
Which one was that?
She coming?
Yep, away.
So did you?
She's gotta get the Lions Club out of there first. She's working on that.
Okay, we're gonna take a brief recess. Penny is supposed to be here shortly. I wouldn't turn the recording off because when you restarted, it's another meeting.
Yeah, that's perfect, that's fine.
And Terry asked about participating in this, I think she should, because she's the one talking about it.
Yeah.
All those, most of it happened with Jen, so I hear. So.
I do like the idea of, I mean, I'm gonna get thank you cards for donations.
We always do.
Yeah.
That's a procedural thing, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're required to do it if it's over 250.
Yeah, it's a stiff. If I recall, Terry can show you a copy. I think it's pretty stiff thank you card, but it
Yeah.
meets the IRS requirements and.
Yeah, I just think it's common courtesy.
Yeah. But. Yeah, you got a donation tonight, you can dig up from Terry what we've been using. We have these systems, but you just seem to fall apart sometimes because turnover and, you know, people overworked and. And we had a couple of town administrators that a few ago that weren't the best procedural record keepers, which is a large part of being the clerk.
Well, what helps is the minutes that you write, like I wrote down, thank you cards into in my meeting also, minutes. So when I'm going back through them, it reminds me.
But if we don't know that a donation's been made, we can't write a thank you, right?
No,
Or whatever you wanna call it. I think thank you card maybe,
you know. I mean, my mother was telling.
I don't think it's all flower, but I think it's
I know.
something like,
Yeah.
this acknowledges your.
Some grandchildren are.
Yeah, but at least
We
an
could-
acknowledgement is,
Right.
yeah,
You can write something very nice inside though.
yeah, you can always scribble
Yeah,
something.
thank you very much. Yeah, just right on it. It's a good idea.
Slayer off, be embarrassed.
We're getting on the road tomorrow, we're getting on the road tomorrow morning.
You want me to stay or go?
Stay. I thought that's why you were,
So much.
yeah, I thought that's why you were here.
I'll see you Saturday.
Yeah, come on,
I was here to offer support.
yeah,
Which I desperately need, so thank you.
come right up to the table. We gotta have a seat for pennies, though, why don't we get rid of that stuff?
There was a few days ago that you're like, I'm leaving in July, and I think I just had a heart attack. I'm like, please don't.
So if anybody, has questions about the reval, feel free to hand them that
Okay.
handout, and if you're okay with it, I'd like to put it on send it out on the listserv and put it on the website.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then what, you'll have to let me know what I typically do with these, because last time we didn't have anybody with their name on it.
Typically at the beginning, if you look at some of the old minutes, it will tell at the beginning who was in attendance.
Perfect, yeah, because I'll need this for the minutes, because I don't know everybody
Yeah.
yet.
And we usually put a disclaimer there on it that says something to the effect that attendance at the meeting doesn't mean you were there for the entire meeting,
Okay,
because that happens a lot. People will come for a couple of items and then they'll leave.
right,
And then people will say, well, you were at the meeting, and they'll say, well, I wasn't at that part, and, you know.
Right.
Are we still recording?
We are.
Yes.
We haven't made a motion yet, or you haven't made a motion yet?
Correct.
Well, do we anticipate taking any action when we come out tonight?
I don't think so. I mean,
I don't either, but do you, Sue?
No.
Okay, so why don't we? I'll announce then for the public that we hopefully, the library and community center director will be here in a few minutes. We're gonna make a motion to go into executive session. And we do not anticipate taking any action. When we come out of executive session, if we do, we'll record it again, but it'll be show up as a second meeting. We can't restart this.
Okay.
So with that, you can shut off the recording, make sure it's off. That's,
Are you in?
no, come on in.
not yet.
all right.
Okay, I'll wait until you're ready.
We're ready.
Come on in. Go.
Come on in.
It's a YouTube up,
Pardon?
stop recording.
We're getting ready to.
Yeah, have you stopped? Oh,
Well.
I gotta make a motion.
Let me make the
Yeah.
motion.
Yeah, sorry. So is there a motion to enter executive session?
Pursuant to MRSA 405, paragraph 4056A to discuss a personnel matter.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, further discussion? All those in favor? Aye?
Joe, aye.
Okay.
Do I?
You can't you can't end the meeting.
Don't end the meeting, though.
So,
Oh,
Cause
okay.
that'll bump Stu up.
This is from Lee's.
Oh, okay.
Recording.
Sue, if you get bumped up, I'll get you back in.
Okay.
Yeah, just make sure nobody else is on besides her.
Okay, recording's not going on. Okay,
and live stream.
yeah. So
The live stream stop.
let's go in.
Live stream, if you go under more,
Oh, right here.
at the bottom where you see the more,
Oh, yes.
and it,